Just outside of Amsterdam, they built a new town, and it is, well, surprisingly good. It has beautiful, humane architecture, a lot of water and canals, and it truly feels like a Dutch town. But why do I say surprisingly good though? Well, this new development is technically an extension of an existing place. And it's mostly residential, so I didn't expect too much. But when I took my bike for a spin and explored this town, I was positively surprised, and I thought I got to make a video about this. So that's what I did. It's called Weesp Surroundings. Yeah, good luck pronouncing that. And it's quite massive. Although it's kind of a suburb, it has a core that does feel urban. But most importantly, this place does many things really well. Some of those things are very subtle, and it's those details that many places don't get right. And if we want nicer places to live, sometimes it's really all in exactly those details. But to really understand this place, we first need to zoom out a little. Because its story actually starts with the land itself, and with a city you might never have heard of. Weesp. Weesp is a charming medieval city, which got its city rights in 1355. And although it's technically a city, it's quite tiny. Weesp is located just outside of Amsterdam, and lies along the beautiful meandering Vecht river. It has a beautiful neoclassical city hall designed by Jacob Otten Huxley, which was finished in 1776. The area where it's located was part of a massive defensive structure called the Hollandse Waterlinie, or the Dutch Water Line. It's a unique defense line where water, instead of walls, are the main weapon. If the enemy would come, they would just flood the land and defend any choke points with fortresses and cannons. Weesp hasn't grown a lot in its history. It has some post-war typical modernist developments to its north and northwest, an organically shaped 80s development to its south, what we call a bloemkoolwijk in Dutch, or cauliflower neighborhood due to its structure, an industry park, and a development called Leeuwenveld, just across the railway. The houses in Leeuwenveld are what I call minimalist traditional. They have traditional proportions and use brick, but that's about it. There's little soul or joy in these buildings, although the area does feel enclosed and urban. And then there's a massive polder, a low-lying area of land that has been reclaimed from water by drainage. This polder, the Bloemendaler polder, was a very suitable candidate for urban development. As you might know, Amsterdam has a massive housing shortage, and many people, especially those who need or want more space, for example to raise a family, are looking for alternatives. This is where the Weesp Surroundings project comes in. A big part of the polder is being turned into a new neighborhood. Construction started in 2017 and it's supposed to be ready in 2027, although due to local protests there might be some delay. The project has 3 parts: Lanenrijk, Waterrijk and Vechtrijk. One is inspired by tree-lined lanes, one dominated by water, and one is inspired by fortified towns along the Vecht river. The thing you should know is that the area is situated between a railway to the south, a major highway in the north, and the river Vecht in the east. In the west there's more fields and a big canal. So what makes Weesp Surroundings so special? Why do I even bother with the video? Well, I was a bit skeptical at first, because I assumed it would just be another urban extension, but with slightly nicer architecture and a lot of cars. But when I arrived, a couple of things really stood out. First of all, the architecture was nicer than I expected. There's immense diversity in the facades, with nicely colored bricks and plenty of detail. And the buildings have typical Dutch architecture, but executed in a convincing way. The architecture in this plan is done by a number of firms, shown on screen. I know Milliners and Milliners best, as I've met some of their architects through Inbouw, but I also know many projects of the other firms. Most of the urban design, including the very well executed urban center, was done by Milliners and Milliners Architecten, while Waterrijk was done by Loos van Vliet. Some of the houses are quite massive as well. There are some pretty nice waterside villas. I could almost see myself live there if I had €1.5 million to spare. Second, there's a lot of water, and by a lot I mean a lot. There's a big lake and there's canals everywhere. Most of the buildings stand on piers or islands or are lined up along these canals. What really got me excited was the details, both in the buildings and in the public spaces. It can be amazing how just a small thing like a detail can make such a difference. Let's look into those details a bit more closely, starting with how the buildings land, how they meet the ground. They have some really nice plinths. These plinths are in many cases made using Belgian bluestone, which quarry I've visited. But not only the houses have a nice way of landing their feet in the soil, which makes them more readable and pleasant looking, But even the little gates you see between buildings have these plinths. Talking about these gates, in Weesp many have a bronze animal sitting on top of these gates. At least I think it's bronze. Something with copper inside at least. I really love this playful touch. It's something that adds enchantment to an area. And I'm sure the local kids love it too. Also, it adds to a sense of place, as these animals probably all live in this area. Which brings me to the topic of local character. And Weesp has lots of that. This is mostly achieved with the architecture, which is traditional Dutch, with some Art Nouveau and fin de siècle styles here and there. In any case, you instantly know you're in the Netherlands somewhere, particularly in the Vecht River area. In Weesp you are somewhere, not anywhere. And the architecture, again, has all these amazing delightful details, like oriel windows, nice gables, and even some gevelstenen, or facade stones, which are a typical Dutch thing. Also, I'm seeing very nice doors and windows with glazing bars. In short, a lot that makes me very happy. Next up is the amazing stoops, as we call them in Dutch. These stoops are placed in front of urban homes without a front garden and are about 1 meter wide. It's defensible space, an area where the inhabitant of the house places a bench to sit, some plants, or even a little table to have coffee in the morning sun. Some houses even have these benches built in. These stoops soften the transition between public and private. They're a sort of gradients, you could say. They make an area feel more friendly, more pleasant and lively. Stoops are common in many traditional Dutch towns. And if you want proof of how well they work, just look at areas without them and notice the difference. They often feel harsher and more alienating. Stoops are often made of a different material or have a slightly different finish than the sidewalk they border on. The finishing touch are the bollards and poles on the edges of the stoops, which you'll see in old Dutch towns as well. They delineate the stoop from public space. A great alternative to these poles are fan-shaped barriers, like applied by Scala Architecten in this example. Which one do you like best? The streets are made with beautiful pavers, as is quite common in the Netherlands, with some asphalt cycling lanes here and there as well. True cobblestone streets would have been even cooler in the center, but it's already very nice as is. Also, I must say that they chose slightly more interesting street lanterns than they normally do. Although I would have loved the truly ornamental ones. Many homes have individual lanterns too, and they add so much to the atmosphere of the place. The entire development is full of kids as well. It's a true nursery. There's many playgrounds, a football field, and I can only imagine how much fun kids can have navigating boats on the water. Also, I've seldomly seen so many cargo bikes as here, or as we call them in Dutch, bakfietsen. They are loved by parents who use them to transport their kids and groceries. It's a very, very Dutch thing. Perhaps one of the favorite things to see was a school that actually looks like a school. It's not just an ugly abstract box, but a proper, beautiful brick school with a little tower and bay windows. Today, most schools are built in the weirdest and most depressing shapes. Boxes that suck all joy and fantasy out of life. But most importantly, having a school be recognizable as such helps anchor the building in the neighborhood. Just near the school there's a small urban center, which is made easily recognizable thanks to a kind of tower. This is where you'll find a supermarket, a drugstore, a butcher, a flower shop, just the basics. There are some parking spots next door and a lot of bike parking. When looking from the sky you can see how they make the center feel more urban by building along the perimeter of the blocks, creating some proper traditional urban fabric. And, of course, the buildings here are taller. The other areas are more open, creating a lesser sense of enclosure, making these areas feel more suburban. I also love the little central harbor they made. It's quite charming and makes me think of the Amsterdam canals. I just wonder what would have happened if they had made the center a bit bigger. Because you don't find new, well-executed urban developments like this very often. It's a bit of a shame they didn't go to the next level. This is also where I must continue to the next part, some drawbacks of this plan. First of all, Weesp is expensive. Although there's some social housing, the majority of the project consists of homes starting at 700,000 euros. But they can easily run up to 900,000 or even 1.2 million. That's not exactly cheap. And it's not necessary either, as some of the houses in the center are so massive that they could be easily split up into apartments. However, a large number of people who move to Weesp come from Amsterdam, where prices are a lot higher. Around 10,000 euros per square meter as of 2025. while in Weesp Surroundings, the average should be around €5,800 per square meter. That is 42% lower compared to Amsterdam, but it's still higher than the average of the Netherlands, which is €4,500 per square meter. And I must say that they built far nicer architecture in Weesp Surroundings than what they're building in super expensive Amsterdam. Another drawback is how suburban this plan is. Can we really afford to build homes using so much space nowadays? We do need this kind of housing for young families, but the dense center part could have been bigger, offering more homes. It would be very exciting to see this concept being used for truly dense developments. In Amsterdam, they built horrific new neighborhoods where they could have used this approach to make amazing new places, because as we see here, it's clearly possible. Then, the car. From the sky, we can see how much the car dominates this area. But for those complaining in the comments, do travel to Weesp Surroundings and try telling a family with 2 parents with full-time jobs and 3 kids that they are not allowed to own a car or park one near their home. Although there are solutions like having a central parking garage elsewhere, people in such developments just want and need parking spots nearby, or the homes will not sell. In inner city areas, this is of course a different story. And then the absolute #1 worst thing about the architecture of this plan: fake shutters. I mean, why? You were so close. Just make the damn real thing. It isn't that much harder. But for God's sake, don't paste wooden boards next to windows and pretend they are shutters. Shutters can actually have a great cooling effect on hot summer days. They drastically reduce light and heat entering windows. They are highly functional if you bother to actually make them. Then the greatest consolation. The surface entry to the supermarket doesn't look like the gates of hell, but is elegantly camouflaged. It actually looks better than many main entrances to apartments in new parts of Amsterdam. In general, this development gives me a lot of hope. It might be mostly suburban residential, and it might not be made with long-lasting, load-bearing masonry like in Paving, but what they were able to achieve has that feeling of an actual Dutch town, and that is really something. The Stoops especially, with the bollards creating defensible space, are the magic touch. This project proves, once again, that it is a design choice to build places that feel welcoming and pleasant. It's not the outcome of fate. In Weesp Surroundings, you really get the feeling that you are in a small Dutch town somewhere along the Vecht River, not in Tokyo or Chile. I believe that is the direction we need to take with our urban environments and our architecture. To respect the context, especially in bigger cities, where the most terrible things are being built right now. We got to celebrate differences, not erase them. And we need to protect and continue indigenous forms of architecture and bring them into the 21st century. Because they are sustainable, pleasant and wildly popular. Most importantly, we need places where you can lead a good, pleasant life and feel at home. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. Share this video with whomever needs to see it. We got to spread the word that we can still build nice places. If you want to learn more about the design principles applied in this plan, take a look at the unique course I'm building. Find the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, a big thank you to my patrons, and see you in the next video.